Do you know how long modern humans have been on this earth? According to www.universetoday.com, modern humans have been around for about 200,000 years since the Paleolithic era in southern Africa. Around 70,000 years, they started to migrate out of southern Africa and started to colonize the planet. Around 40,000 years ago, they moved to Eurasia, Oceania, and around 14,500 years ago, they made it to the Americas. As a human being living on this planet, I feel a responsibility to know as much as I can about science. Science is in our everyday lives, is in our everyday experiences, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to witness and learn about. And as a human being living on Earth, period, I feel everyone should at least know some of the basic concepts of science. I want to be a physician assistant. So at Wayne State, in the curriculum, is you have to take a lot of science classes, but also in my spare time, I take time out to learn about different scientific concepts because I'm just that passionate about it, and I really, really love it. And it's with that passion and that love for science that I bring you a particular concept, and that's evolution. The Earth is home to millions and millions of species, and it's a greatly diverse planet. It's one of the most diverse planets we know today. It could be another one that's more diverse, but for right now, we're it. And it's this diversity in these multitudes of species that evolution is directly responsible for. So today, first, I want to talk about evolution and some mechanisms behind it. Secondly, I would like to talk about the human-ape relationship, and finally, I would like to talk about the human evolutionary timeline. In science, a law is a statement based on repeated experiments and observations on some aspect of the world. And a theory is an explanation or description about a repeated experiment or observation about some aspect about the world. People tend to think that a law is something that's been proven, and a theory is something that hasn't been proven yet and still hypothesized, and that's simply not true. Evolution is the change in phenotypic and genotypic traits over many generations. Charles Darwin is the father of evolution and the first person to give rise to the notion of evolution. While on a voyage on his HMS Beagle, he was at the Galapagos Island and surveying many different species. And one particular group of animals that was of particular interest to him is the finches, and now they're affectionately nicknamed Darwin's finches. These particular sets of animals, he gathered information about them and sent them to a colleague, and his colleague and him, put their heads together and realized that these animals were completely different species, but they shared glaring similarities. And one of the differences that they did have, though, was their beak size and their beak shape, and this difference was directly proportional to what they ate on their particular island. Now, this finding, and along with some other findings, gave rise to the notion of evolution. According to evolution.berkeley.edu, there are four mechanisms to evolution. There's mutation, there's migration, there's genetic drift, and there's natural selection. Mutation are the change in genetic sequencing in DNA and RNA, and there are some different types of mutations. There are point mutations, insertion mutations, and deletion mutations. Migration is the exchange of genes across a population. Genetic drift is the change in allele, and an allele is a genetic trait. So it's the change in alleles in a population just due to chance. And natural selection is the change in biological traits due to reproduction across many generations. So if an organism has a favorable trait, then he will survive and pass along his trait. If a organism has an unfavorable trait, then they're most likely not survive and pass on that trait. So that's where the term survival of the fittest. That's why it's mostly attributed to natural selection. Now I want to transition and talk about the human and ape relationship. Great apes are our closest relative in the present day. Um, Humans are great apes, and along with humans, gorillas, chimpanzees, and orangutans are also great apes, and we're all under the family Hominidae. Chimpanzees are our closest relatives in the grape ape family, and according to www.livescience.com, roughly 4 million years ago, there was a common ancestor, and at that time, humans and chimpanzees diverged from one another and made their own lineages. So the notion that humans are directly from monkeys or chimpanzees, that's not true. We come from a common ancestor, and that's why we share similarities with other organisms. According to humanorigins.si.edu, there are some humans in the timeline that's come before us. Um, is Homo habilis, Homo ergaster, Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo neanderthal, and Homo sapiens. And this is a little picture of the timeline of humans, and we would be right there. According to www.nature.com, the evolution to modern humans wasn't quite as simple as I'm making it out to be. It was a lot of hard work, and it took just years and years and years to develop, because evolution is over many generations. So traits like bipedalism, and that's walking on two legs, that was evolved fairly early. But a trait like large brain size, that was developed and evolved much later, and it was much tougher to grasp. So in conclusion, I've talked about um, evolution and some of its mechanisms. I've spoken about the human ape relationship, and I've also spoken about the human evolutionary timeline. I hope this speech, when you hear it, you will want to find out more about evolution, more about science, more about where we possibly come from, and